Hey, thanks for stopping by. This is going to be my first video in a series of videos about PHP web development. In this video series, we'll be going over the very basics of PHP all the way to an advanced level. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll be able to write an application all the way from login to log out. So in this series, we're going to go over a lot more than just PHP. Near the end, we'll be getting into HTML and databases and JavaScript. But for right now, we're going to focus on PHP. Now I'm kind of assuming you already have PHP installed or your web server set up. We're going to get right into the code. In a later video, I'll include instructions on how to just set up PHP. But for right now, we're going to focus on the code. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a file called basic.php. You can name it whatever you'd like. It doesn't matter. As long as it ends with a .php, I should say. And now I'm going to redirect my browser to my new file. Okay. So, starting off, the first thing you do with a PHP script is you always start off with these PHP tags. And what these do is they tell the computer, hey, everything in between here is going to be PHP. It won't be C++ or anything else. It's just going to be PHP, so run it like you should. Pretty simple. You're going to need them to write PHP, though. The first line we're going to write is echo hello world. So in this series, I'm usually, almost always, I'm going to write the code, run it, and then kind of explain what's going on. So there's our code, and now let's run it, and we see hello world. Nice. That works perfectly. So let's kind of go over what's happening here. The first thing we see is this echo. And what that does is a PHP command that says, hey, I'm going to give you something, and I want you to print it out. And that's all that echo does. So what we're giving it is hello world. And this is what we call a string. So a string is any letter or number, anything on the keyboard, I should say, surrounded with double quotes. A sentence or whatever it might be. So that's basically what a string is. And I guess the opposite of a string would be like a number, where we could say, hey, display 54. And it'll do that. And I mean, you could put 54 in the double quotes, but for the most part, numbers don't have double quotes. Anything other than a number needs to be surrounded in double quotes or single quotes. And we'll go over more of that later in a later video. And at the very end here, we see that we have a semicolon. And what the semicolon represents is the ending of a PHP line. Now, not necessarily just the end of the line, but an end of a PHP code line. So, and that'll make more sense later on. But for right now, just know that after every echo or whatever else we use, end it with the semicolon. If not, PHP will throw a bunch of errors. And I've worked on PHP for at least 4 years now, and I still on a daily basis forget to put my semicolons in. So don't forget your semicolons. So moving on, we're going to talk about variables. Now variables are a big thing in PHP and really, really straightforward to use. I like to think of variables as a sticky note almost. Is you write something down and then you can pull up your sticky note and there it is. Maybe you'll give it a title. So in this case, we're going to say a city. So in a variable, you always start it off with the $sign. So I say $, city. City is the name of the variable. And I said it's going to be equal to, and then our string, New York. All right. So now city is set to New York. So now I can say, hey, PHP, I want you to display my city. So echo city. Save it. And look at that. I already forgot my semicolon. All right, there we go. Now we're going to run over to our browser, and we should see New York. And we do. Nice. All right. So, yeah, that's pretty simple, right? Makes sense. Here's our variable. We set it to New York, and then we echo it out. Now, from this, the best thing I've learned with PHP is you just start making things happen. Like from this, I can make a number of combinations of things. I could say city equals New York, and zip equals 49007, and then I can echo out zip. And just writing code and seeing what things do is the best way to learn. I taught myself by reading a book, which was a terrible way to learn, but I really didn't learn by the book. I learned by, just writing things and, and figuring it out myself. And I feel like it's the best way to do it. And let's see if 49007 popped up. And it did. Perfect. Alright, so that's a really, really basic intro to variables and the basics of PHP. And what I want you guys to do is I want you to just, write some code, maybe comment back on, what you wrote and some cool things or whatever, and just get your brain wrapped around coding and figure out what you can do with this. And in the next video, we'll be going over more about some math functions and maybe get into some statements. But for right now, I feel like it's a really good intro. Thank you guys for stopping. I really hope you guys can continue the series with me, and I hope you guys have a great day.